is Shweta Vadivel, in-house embryologist from SR Hospital. And my co-partner?
I am Mamta, patient relationship manager from SR Hospital. ಶ್ವೇತಾ ಇದೊಂದು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ ನೀನು? ಯಾಕೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಇಷ್ಟು ಬ್ರೈಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಇವತ್ತು? ನಿಂಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ?
ಯಾಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಮಮತಾ, ಇವತ್ತೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಫೌಂಡರ್ಸ್ ಮೆಮೋರಿಯಲ್ ಎಂಡೋಮೆಂಟ್ ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಇದೆ. ಎಸ್, ಒನ್ಸ್ ಅಗೇನ್ ಗುಡ್ ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಎವ್ರಿವನ್ and wishing you all a happy Republic Day. It's truly a pleasure to welcome you all to the Dr. Subbarao Sir's Memorial Endowment Lecture 2025. And let me tell you one thing, Dr. Subbarao Sir wasn't just a doctor, he was a superhero but in a white coat. While most superheroes have caps, he had a stick and a scalpel.
ನಾವು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸುವ ಮೊದಲು ನಮ್ಮ ಗೌರವಾನ್ವಿತ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಆಹ್ವಾನಿಗಳ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಸಗೌರವದಿಂದ ಆಹ್ವಾನಿಸುತ್ತೇವೆ. ಅವರು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಧುರೀಣರಾಗಿದ್ದು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸುಬ್ಬರಾವ್ ಅವರ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯನ್ನು ಮುಂದುವರಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
We request our chief patrons to join us on stage. We would like to welcome Dr. K. Satish Sir, Managing Director of SR Hospital and Secretary of SR Healthcare Trust. Welcome, sir. We would like to welcome Dr. K. Lakshmi Pavana ma'am, Clinical Head of SR Hospital and Chairman of SR Healthcare Trust. Welcome, ma'am. We would like to welcome Dr. Kasa Somasekar Sir, Professor and HOD, Department of General Surgery, WIMS, Ballari and Consultant Surgeon at NB Hospital, Ballari. We welcome you, sir. We would like to welcome Dr. Manik Rao Kulkarni Sir, President, IMA, Ballari. Welcome you, sir. We would like to welcome Dr. Bharat Sir, Vice President, IMA, Ballari. Welcome you, sir. We would like to welcome Dr. Sangeeta Katmani ma'am, Secretary, IMA, Ballari. Welcome you, ma'am. We would like to welcome Dr. P. Harish Sir, Joint Secretary, IMA, Ballari. We would like to welcome Dr. Mallikarjuna Morikeri Sir, Treasurer, IMA, Ballari. A big round of applause for them, please.
ಶ್ವೇತಾ, ನೀನು ಇದೊಂದು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ? ಎಲ್ಲೋ ನಮಗೆ ಜೋಶ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತಲ್ಲ? ಹೌದಲ್ಲ? ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸರಿ ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ? ಶ್ವೇತಾ, ನಾವ್ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಮುಂದುವರಿಸೋಣ. ಒಂದು ಭಕ್ತಿ ಗೀತೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ?
ಹೌದಲ್ಲ? ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ?
ನಮ್ಮ SR ಟೀಮ್ ನಿಂದ ಈಗ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಗೀತೆ ಮೂಲಕ ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸೋಣ. ಸೊ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಟೀಮ್.
ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಟೀಮ್. Thank you, sir.
Shiva, Nidadiro Shiva, Ninkudu Ninnakaya. Nido Shiva, Nidadiro Shiva, Bagodu Yennakaya. Naneke Anjali, Ni Nanna Ambali, Naneke Anjali, Ni Nanna Ambali. Nido Shiva, Nidadiro Shiva, Bagodu Yennakaya. Nido Shiva, Nidadiro Shiva, Bagodu Yennakaya. ಶೃಂಗಾರ ಕೃತಕ ಬಂಗಾರ ಕ್ಷಣಿಕ, ಶೃಂಗಾರ ಕೃತಕ ಬಂಗಾರ ಕ್ಷಣಿಕ, ಬಾಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿವಾರವೇಕೆ? ನೀನಿದ್ದ ಕಾಯ ನಿನ ಕೈಲೆ ಮಾಯ, ನೀನಿದ್ದ ಕಾಯ ನಿನ ಕೈಲೆ ಮಾಯ, ಆಗೋದು ಹೋಗೋದು ನಾ ಕಾಣೆನೆ. ನೀಡೋ ಶಿವ, ನೀಡದಿರೋ ಶಿವ, ಬಾಗುವುದು ಎನ್ನ ಕಾಯ. ಮಾಳಿಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ಬರದಡಿಯಲಿಟ್ಟರು, ನಾನಂತೂ ನೀನೆನ್ನಲಾರೆ. ಸಾರಂಗ ಮನಕ್ಕೆ ನೂರಾರು ಬಯಕೆ, ಮುಂದಿಟ್ಟು ಉಳಿಸೋದು ನಾ ಕಾಣೆನೆ. ಮಾಣಿಕೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ಮರದಡಿಯ ಇಟ್ಟರು ನಾನಂತೂ ನೀನೆನ್ನಲಾರೆ ಸಾರಂಗವನಕ್ಕೆ ನೂರಾರು ಬಯಕೆ ಮುಂದಿಟ್ಟು ನುಣಿಸೋನು ನಾ ಕಾಣೆನೆ ನೀಡೋ ಶಿವ ನೀಡದಿರೋ ಶಿವ ಬಾಗುವುದು ಎನ್ನ ಕಾಯ ನೀಡೋ ಶಿವ ನೀಡದಿರೋ ಶಿವ ಬಾಗುವುದು ಎನ್ನ ಕಾಯ ನಾನೇಕೆ ಅಂಜಲಿ ನೀ ನನ್ನ ಅಂಬಲಿ ನಾನೇಕೆ ಅಂಜಲಿ ನೀ ನನ್ನ ಅಂಬಲಿ ನೀಡೋ ಶಿವ ನೀಡದಿರೋ ಶಿವ ಬಾಗುವುದು ಎನ್ನ ಕಾಯ ಬಾಗುವುದು ಎನ್ನ ಕಾಯ ಬಾಗುವುದು ಎನ್ನ ಕಾಯ.
ನಮ್ಮ ತಂಡಕ್ಕೆ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
ಜ್ಯೋತಿ ಪರಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ದೀಪಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಅಗಾಧ ಶಕ್ತಿಯು ಕತ್ತಲನ್ನು ಬೆಳಗುವ ದೀಪ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಲ್ಮಶಗಳನ್ನು ದೂರ ಸರಿಸಿ ಶಾಂತಿ ಮೂಡಿಸುವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ದೀಪಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ ಮೆರಿಗೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸೂಚಿಸುವ ದೀಪ ಬೆಳಗಿಸುವ ಮೂಲಕ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ಮಾಡೋಣ.
ಭಾರತೀಯ ವೈದ್ಯಕೀಯ ಸಂಘದ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಂತೋಷವಾಗಿರಲಿ. ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಮೀ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಂತೋಷವಾಗಿರಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಆರೋಗ್ಯವಾಗಿರಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನೋವಿನಿಂದ ಮುಕ್ತವಾಗಿರಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ದುಃಖದಿಂದ ಮುಕ್ತವಾಗಿರಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಸೆ ಅಮೀಕ್ಷೆಗಳನ್ನು ಮೀರಿ ಗುಣಪಡಿಸುವವರು ನಾವಾಗಿರಲಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
Everybody, hope you're all well and healthy. Today we are conducting the 10th endowment lecture in collaboration with IMA and Endowment Trust. Dr. Subbarao. Dr. K. Subbarao was born on 2nd January 1942 in a small village called Seetanapalli of Krishna district, Andhra Pradesh. He did his schooling in Arthirapadu and pre-degree in Machilipatnam of Krishna district. He joined MBBS at Banaras Hindu University, BHU, in Varanasi in 1961 and completed in 1966. He did his post-graduation in general surgery from the same university from 67 to 71. He married to his best of Venkatalila in 1963 and settled in Bellary in 1972. He started Srinivasa Nursing Home in 1972 in 1 acre of land at the then Medical College Road, now called as Hospital Road, in Bellary, with an aim to provide quality health care at affordable or low prices to people in surrounding areas, who most of them were from poor background. Dr. Subbarao died due to cardiac arrest on 22nd March 1994. In his remembrance, Srinivasa Nursing Home was later renamed as Subbarao Hospital, which the name continues even now. Dr. Subbarao was kind, soft-hearted, hard worker, confident, dedicated, and a very intellectual person. During his tenure, he provided treatment and did many surgeries at free of cost to people who can't afford. He contributed his research in latest surgical techniques, presented many papers in leading medical journals, conducted many free health camps and awareness programs, etc. He worked as president of Indian Medical Association Bellary branch from 1991 to 1992. Many people from surrounding areas and villages used to come to his treatment. He was remembered even now by his colleagues, students, and many people in and around Bellary. For his service, Dr. Subbarao sir will continue to stay in our hearts forever. So we are very fortunate to have a very learned speaker today, Dr. Kasa Somsekar sir, and I'll give the hand.
That was a heartfelt tribute to Dr. Subbarao sir. His legacy of kindness and dedication continues to inspire us all. Thank you for sharing those wonderful words, sir. Now I request Dr. Sangeeta ma'am to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Kasa Somsekar sir. Please come and share a few words about him, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Somsekar sir completed MBBS from WIMS in 1992 and MS in General Surgery from Government Medical College, Meerut in 1996. After finishing his post-graduation, he joined WIMS in 1997 and became the Professor of General Surgery at an age of 39 years. Right now, sir is being HOD of the department since 2024. Sir has a few notable mentions like endoscopic evaluation of dysphagia, manometric evaluation of esophageal diseases, endoscopic evaluation of Candida esophagitis, clinico-pathological correlations of goiter, comparison of infraumbilical versus periumbilical camera port placement in lab cholecystectomy. He has presented many papers in notable national, international journals and conferences, one of it being the prestigious R.B. Patil Symposium on Thyroid Nodule in KSASION 2021. He is presently conducting research on efficacy of fixing IPOM measures with trackers versus suturing. He has guided many PGs in their academics and research works, and he is also been a faculty member of NBE DNB education examinations. We welcome you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta ma'am. ಥೈರಾಯ್ಡ್ ಎಂದರೇನು? ಅದು ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಇದೆ? ಅದು ವಯಸ್ಕರಿಗ, ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗ, ಗರ್ಭಿಣಿ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯವರಿಗ? ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟು ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟ್ವರೆಗೂ ಇರಬೇಕು? ಅಡ್ವಾನ್ಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನು? ಈ ರೀತಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಅತಿಥಿಗಳಾದ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸೋಮಶೇಖರ್ ಅವರನ್ನು ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕೆಂದು ಕೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೇನೆ.
Everybody, cozy climate, sprawling venue. At the outset, let me thank the organizers, Dr. Satish and Lakshmi Pavana and family, for giving me this opportunity. When I was a child, rather high school, when I was doing my high school, I used to hear a lot about Dr. Subbarao. Next slide, please. Right. This is mic. When I was in high school, I used to hear a lot about Dr. Subbarao from one of my teacher, mentor, Mr. Jagan Mohan Rao. Probably they are the neighbors for SR Hospital, then Srimas Nursing Home. We used to hear about the way he used to see the compassion towards the poor people and his skills, and the way he used to give the assurances for even the advanced cases, making the patients comfortable, and all those things used to inspire me. And at that time, we used to feel one day I should, if possible, I should also become one of the surgeons like this. I am very fortunate, or today I am really, it is nostalgic. Today I am delivering I have been selected for the prestigious endowment lecture on his name. Really honored in this fashion. I thank the organizers once again for this. Ballari, I have been seeing a lot of cases of thyroid nodules in Ballari. I don't know the reason, but really it may be endemic. Although the incidence or prevalence is slightly coming down for the last 10 years, probably due to the effective use of this iodized salt, but due to overuse or more use of adequate use of the ultrasonography has increased the incidences or prevalence of thyroid nodules in our society. One previous slide. Unfortunately, in spite of knowing a lot of thyroid nodules, we commonly see mismanagement in this regard, the management of thyroid nodules. So I am also one among them. Surgeons overthinking that each and every thyroid nodule is a malignancy because of the indeterminate nature of the histopathology, and physicians over treating even minor changes in the functioning of the thyroid or the benign lesions, hoping with the thyroxine, hoping that the lesions will reduce in size. But the advent of a lot of water has been flown under the bridge for the past 10 years. That lot of radiological analysis, which has improved the targeting of the lesion thyroid nodules and improved cytopathologist opinions, has reduced greatly in reducing the unnecessary surgeries for the large chunk of the caseload in the society. My talk today is mainly to enlighten you on the how to manage how to identify the malignancy particular, so that you need not worry about managing the thyroid nodules, management of thyroid nodules, and many other benign lesions. Anybody can treat it, but it should be in a scientific way. What is a thyroid nodule? Thyroid nodule includes a nodule in a multinodular goiter also. Literally, all the diseases of thyroid can present at one or the other time as a Salter nodule. So what is a Salter nodule? Salter nodule is a discrete, palpable or radiologically identifiable lesion within the thyroid gland, which may be functioning or non-functioning. Next slide. So case load in the society is huge. So there are a lot of papers. Even we also conducted one. I had given a thesis for one of the PGs. We have also assessed at that time. The case load is rather equally more in India also than compared to outside Western countries. We have literature in the Western countries, from the Western countries. So it is in general population, clinically palpable nodes is 48%, and USG can pick up nearly 6 to 8 times more than that. In autopsy, especially in the American ATA, according to ATA information, it is up to 50%. So imagine how many cases of thyroid nodules we have. The incidence is more, as usual, females. It is more in females, and the prevalence increases with the age. So differential diagnosis one. So literally, I told you all the diseases of thyroid can present as Salter nodule thyroid. However, most of them are benign. So 85% of the thyroid nodules are benign. Remember, commonly is the dominant nodule in a case of MNG. That accounts for nearly 60%. Other notable things are in benign for 60%, nodular hyperplasia 15%, follicular adenoma 12%, and other toxic nodule is quite rare, and cysts comprise only 1 to 2%. 5% are malignant lesions, among them papillary carcinoma accounts for chunk of the malignant lesions. Of course, everybody knows papillary carcinoma most of the time. It is a very indolent and slow growing. One need not worry about the malignancies also. Except anaplastic, here the thyroid is a really a friendly organ. Next slide. What happens to thyroid nodule? Most of the benign lesions, as I told you, they spontaneously dissolve. So one of the studies has shown that nearly 38% is reduced in size spontaneously without even giving the thyroxine. Thyroxine, unnecessary complications of heart diseases or all these complications can be avoided. Just observe the over a period of time. Next. We have some dilemma in the histology, especially the follicular neoplasms, indeterminate variants. So that should not hinder about the management of the thyroid nodules, overdoing of the thyroid surgeries. It's just we have to pick up particular cases of malignancies in the thyroid nodule so that we can target the treatment or the total thyroidectomies or its complication. We can take some race only in a certain minor chunk of diseases. So how to find out a thyroid nodule as a malignant lesion? One has to go through the set pattern of surgical practice, that is the history and examination is really important. No single investigation can confidently give the idea that it is a malignant lesion. Though FNAC can give a fair amount of idea, but it is a dilemma in histopathology in thyroid diseases. But we can reduce that dilemma by taking proper history, age. So older the age, more chances of the malignancies. Younger the age, if you see a malignancy, diagnosed case of malignancy, more aggressive is the tumor. Family history. Some 5% of the people will have the family history of malignancies, especially the medullary carcinoma of thyroid. Other endocrine diseases, association of other endocrine diseases also flags the possibility of malignancy in the thyroid. History of radiation exposure, previous history of radiation exposure to the neck for some other lesions like lymphoma or any other malignancy. History regarding the voice change, that is the pressure or the infiltrative symptoms like voice change, dyspnea, dysphagia, cough. It also flags or signals that it could be we are dealing with a benign lesion which is compressing posteriorly near the recurrent laryngeal nerve or the vital structures there, the esophagus and trachea, or infiltration of the malignancy. Of course, history regarding the meds. On examination, size is important, consistency. Why am I stressing is this? So again and again, so no test investigation is 100% sure it is a malignancy. So all these things, when I come to the management, you will understand all these things are important in categorizing the diseases towards the malignancy or benign disease. So size more than 4 centimeters, consistency, hard, fixity, sign suggests of extraparietal involvement, that is the infiltration to the trachea, larynx or other muscles, staph muscles, involvement of the lymph node, all which suggest the sites of the thyroid nodule probability of malignancy. Of course, signs of METs also. Next slide. Used to hear more on surgeries for all the thyroid nodules, most of the thyroid nodules, especially for follicular varieties. I used to think rather than taking, because of lack of the adequate cytopathologist opinion and the lack of the thyroid assessment from the radiologist, even I too used to hear on the more on the radical surgeries like total thyroidectomy. We also have some complications after total thyroidectomy, like nerve involvement or temporary hypoparathyroidism. But all those things can be now reduced in intensity by applying all this proper clinical examination, the radiologist's help and the cytopathologist's help, along with a lot of scoring systems in stratifying the risk involvement of being a malignancy in the thyroid nodule, low risk and high risk, match scoring, all these things are there. So one should effectively utilize all these the scoring systems and the radiologist thyroid score, thyroid, to reduce the unnecessary surgeries and its attendant complications. So now, after proper history and examination of suspecting some thyroid nodule could be a malignancy, what are the other investigations which may help in reducing the number of malignancies? First and foremost is the thyroid function, that is the TSH estimation. Simple TSH estimation will rule out the toxic nodules either in a single nodule or as a part of autonomous nodule in a multinodular diet. So radioiodine scan, if it is hot nodule, you can confirm it by radioiodine scans. Ultrasonography. Now the ultrasonologists have gone leaps and bounds in helping the surgeon or the treating practitioner in determining whether the given nodule is a malignancy or benign. Though it is still not no single observation in ultrasonography is conclusive of malignancy, but corroboration of many findings can help the pinpointing the nodule as a malignancy. So as we will come to know what are the things which can help us on ultrasonography, it can also identify the lymph nodes, the involvement of the lesion. Then the FNAB, as usual, FNAB, though it is a little inconclusive, some 20-30% cases, but majority of the cases it gives you the diagnosis. If it is indeterminate, it can help. It can be helped by simple molecular tests. Nowadays, it is available even in all the periphery centers. Molecular studies can give you more idea about being it a malignancy or benign. Of course, CT MRI, they are more helpful in case of malignancy is established. So how far it has extended, the CT MRI can give you an idea. Histopathological examination after the surgery, after the hemithyroidectomy or total thyroidectomy, histopathology, that is the that will give you some more idea whether to go in for a total thyroidectomy or not, or if it is total thyroidectomy already done, can we go ahead with the lymph node dissection or not, or any other, the monoclonal antibodies has to be given, stratifying the risk depending upon the risk. Of course, serum thyroglobulin, especially in cases of differentiated carcinomas, it will help in the follow-up of the malignancies and further management. Next slide. First and foremost, simple, any nodule is there, thyroid nodule. First and foremost is the simple
TSH estimations. If it is decreased, it suggests an autonomous nodule. Confirm it by nuclear scans. Hot nodule, you can straight away go ahead with the radio iodine ablation or surgery, hemotherapy. So there is no need of confirmation by the FNAC because less than 5% of toxic nodules are malignant. Earlier used to say cold nodules are more common, more with malignancy. Toxic nodules have got some more percentage of malignancy. Everything has to be, all the cases have to be scanned with radionuclide iodine scans, but it is not so. It has a very limited role. Radio iodine scans are very limited role. Only in identifying the toxic nodule and follow-up in case of residual tumors after surgery or finding the METs. These are the only indications for radio iodine scans nowadays. So hot nodule confirmed with the radionuclide scans, straight away go in for the ablations with radio iodine or surgery. If it is cold nodule, subject the patient for FNAC depending upon the thyroid scoring on USG. Next slide. So these are some of the pictures of how cold nodule is seen and what are the autonomous nodules, how they look like. Next slide. So after this, another non-invasive, don't jump to the FNAC. So non-invasive investigation like USG greatly helps in the identifying the thyroid nodule could be a benign or malignancy. There, as I told you, lot of research or the activities going on in the USG stratification of the thyroid nodules. Thyroid imaging, radiation, radiological assessment and data science. As in thyroids, the breast. So thyroids has come as greatly helping the surgeons. So there are a lot of parameters which are taken in the thyroids. That is depending upon the ecogenicity, composition, the vascularity, the capsule involvement. So all these things, they have given some scoring systems. Now, depending upon the scoring system, you can stratify. It's a high risk probability of being a more malignancy. I remember. Assessment of thyroid nodule is given as a, so these flagging signs are findings like being solid in composition, very hypoic in ecogenicity, taller than wide, that is the anterior posterior lens more than the width, extrathyroidal extension, a punctate ecogenic foci, that is the microcalcifications, they all suggestive of being it a malignancy. Then next slide please. So accordingly you give the scoring. Of course still some more research is going on and the vascularity also, whether it is at the periphery more vascular or central more vascular, central vascularity more vascularity again suggestive being a malignancy, but they are all next, they may be included. One day you may find a USG or radiologist is the most friendly person for the surgeon. So he may give the diagnosis, hopefully. So now, as of now, no single finding on USG can pinpoint it is a, or dogmatically say it is a malignancy. All these are combined together can give you an idea that it could be a malignancy. How it is utilized. So scoring system. So points, as I shown you previous slide, points are given. If the points are 0, summation of all these things are 0, then it is most probably you are dealing with a benign swelling. No follow-up is necessary and no FNAC is necessary. A simple non-invasive method of assessment. Benign, don't think here there are only few cases. The large chunk of cases will fall in the tier 1 and tier 2. So we can just avoid the FNAC itself at outset. So a treating physician or the surgeon can happily avoid the happily treat the simple cases or follow up the cases. So if the scoring is 2, not suspicious, then also there is no need of the further investigations. Tier, that is the TARATS 3, scoring points is 3, summation is 3, mildly suspicious. In these cases also, just you follow the cases if the lesion is less than 1.5 centimeters. If the lesion is picked up in the USG is less than 1.5 centimeters, just wait and watch. Later, after 4 weeks or following after 2-3 months, if this lesion increases to more than 2.5 centimeters, then subject the patient for FNAC. Tier 4, the scoring is 4 to 6, moderately suspicious. Here you should have little less threshold for subjecting the patient for FNAC. If the lesion is more than 1 centimeter, subject it for FNAC. Of course, tier 5 is highly suspicious, so the threshold is 1. Why 1 centimeter is lost? So the American Radiologist Association of Radiologists found out less than 1 centimeter thyroid malignancy, or ATA, even Thyroid Association of America. So they have seen less than 1 centimeter malignancies. Most of the time they will not increase in size over the lifetime. So finding it out, treating them with unnecessary surgeries and complications is not recommended, warranted. So that's why, so 1 centimeter, as of now 1 centimeter, less than 1 centimeters with some history such as family history of radiation, or family history of malignancies. If such history is there, then you can subject the patient for FNAC. Otherwise, 1 centimeter is the deadline. Next. These are some of the USG findings we quite often will be seeing. These clear cystic nodules, okay, hypoechoic cystic nodules with some solid component. Here the capsular infiltration, okay, variable echogenicity, microcalcifications, central vascular, increased vascularity. All these things can be very well made out if a radiologist is dedicated to the thyroid, the assessment of thyroid nodules. Next slide. Next, previous slide. How to reduce the chances of more radical surgeries? So picking up all these things, in a case of nodule, say if there is a cystic lesion, you aspirate and send. If there is a cystic lesion, aspirate and send it for the cytology centrifuge and do the cytology. And in a cystic lesion, only one periphery, one solid nodule is there. Target USG guided FNAC has to be done. Okay, simple FNAC may not show the, may not pick up the malignancy. You have to target all the nodules. Whatever the number of nodules, each nodule carries the risk. So all the suspicious nodules have to be subjected for the FNAC. And USG guided FNAC is the needed one. So to reduce the chances of negative pickup, so one has to subject the patients for the USG guided FNAC. Under after, if you do USG guided FNACs, the false negative cases can be pickup cases can be reduced from 16% to 2% or 3%. So after during FNAC, these are the Bethesda. It is documented quite long back. Still, it holds good. So non-diagnostic aspirations are still more common in nowadays, even in our setups. what we need is, as I told you, is the targeted FNACs. So by targeted FNAC, you can reduce the non-diagnostic or unsatisfactory results even to the 3%. So what is a satisfactory FNAC? So FNAC should yield at least 2 slides of 6 groups of 10 cells each. Then only if all those 2 slides are studied, all 6 groups are studied of follicular cells of 10 each. If they are carrying a negative result, then you can say it is a negative. Otherwise, it is all come under unsatisfactory aspirate or non-diagnostic aspirate. What has to be done? Because these cases also carry the risk of being a malignancy. You can't neglect these cases. So if the aspirate is negative, don't be idle. You have to repeat it after 4 weeks. Especially a targeted biopsy under USG. So you can most of the times pick up the yield. Yield will be there. Okay. So whether it is benign or malignancy, first at least a good yield will be there. So if the FNAC conclusively say the histopathologist say it is a benign, consider it as a benign. The risk of being malignancy is very, very low. It is only 3%. If FNAC pathologist say it is a benign lesion, happily you can treat it as a benign lesion only. If histopathologist says malignant lesions, consider it as a malignancy. If he conclusively says it is a malignancy, 99% it will be a malignancy. So there is no need of further scratching. Accordingly, you can treat it. Suspicious of malignancy, of course. Again, high risk of being it a malignancy. So consider it as your modality of management like lobectomy or total thyroidectomy. Here on both more on the radical procedures like total thyroidectomies rather than the conservative procedures like lobectomies. So everything is difficult in this group, Bethesda 3 and Bethesda 4. Here the indeterminate variants are more. The cytopathologist fails to say conclusively whether it is a malignancy or benign. This is the group which has dogged the surgeons for more than 2-3 decades. So that is the one which is responsible for erring surgeons more towards the radical surgeries rather than the benign surgeries, and with the attendant complications. Because total thyroidectomy is not free of complications. Even in best hands, in best centers, we have the rates of complications from, even in Western countries, 1 to 30%. If there is one paper has produced that says if the complication rate is low, that means they are not doing the total thyroidectomy. They are just claiming that total thyroidectomy. That is the rate of complications in total thyroidectomy. So one has to reduce the chances of subjecting the patients for total thyroidectomy. But this is the dilemma. These two classes are dilemma. How to reduce the chances of subject the patient to total thyroidectomy in these two cases also we'll see later. So when FNAC gives whether it's a 3 or 4, after surgery, if you subject the patient for the specimen for histopathological examination, this is the incidences. Being it a follicular adenoma is nearly 37.5, again benign. Okay, so colloid multinodular. So benign lesions will take nearly again more than 60%, even if it is because it's a 3 or 4. That is a indeterminate variant. Also, in indeterminate variant also, more than half of the percentage of cases are benign lesions. Don't subject for the unnecessary radical surgeries. So we have to see which are the cases which are benign. So how to go about next step. So these are some of the histopathological. So this is being the most benign thing. At that end, it is the most malignant. Cytopathologists' interest. So they may be more rather appreciate all these things. Next slide. So this is the indeterminate variant. what has to be done? So you subject the patient for molecular studies. Nowadays, molecular studies can be done, or the pickup centers are there in everywhere, in nook and corner of the country. It can be sent to the respective higher centers of higher lab centers. Then you can, within 1 or 2 days, you can get the results. So molecular studies will throw a light on the nodule, the probability of nodule being a malignancy or benign. Negative molecular studies, that is the if they say no genetic mutations are there, then it should be, you can take it as a benign only. If it is positive, it may be malignancy or benign. It doesn't rule out. But negativity always says it is a, so quite a number of cases you can have the negative molecular studies so that all these things, the cases can be managed conservatively again. Next slide, please. So these are some of the molecular studies, RED, PTC, BRAF. See, these can, the presence of these mutations can be assessed and in depth again, whether it is being the differentiated variety or poorly differentiated or anaplastic can also be ascertained. Next slide, please. So these are some of the available molecular tests of our GSC, Thyroseq. BRAF test, BRAF mutations have got high specificity and positive predictive value in thyroid cancers. So this is one thing. So the negativity again will give you more idea towards being it a negative. Positivity, probably this is the one test which gives more chance, gives an idea that more being a malignancy. But negative is always important. Next. Immunohistochemical markers, they may have idea about you will get the idea about the further management of the disease after surgery, and the presence of these markers can give you an idea that it may be a metastatic disease, suspecting it is a metastatic disease or confined disease or negative disease or negative to the malignancy. This will also help in the management of the thyroid nodules. So now we know, we have come to that the more than 85% are benign, and in other 15% also, most cases we can manage with the non-radical surgeries. What are the, for benign lesions, what are the options? We used to say one can manage, as I told you, 38% can be can reduce on its own. So we can just wait and watch, conservative wait and watch. Or if it is a cyst, clear cyst, one can aspirate the lesion and see twice. You can take the chance of aspirating. If it recurs again, either you can subject the case for the hemipteridectomy or just ethanol ablation. So ethanol ablation can be used for a simple clear cyst. If it is a case of benign lesion, but it is a cosmetic, patient asks for cosmesis, then you can subject the patient for hemipteridectomy, what we usually do as a surgeons, but lesser invasive methods like radiofrequency ablation is now picking up, or you can ablate the lesion by the microwave lasers. So all these things now are effectively being used, though it is not approved in the textbooks or rather they approved in the associations, but they are coming in a big way. So thermal or chemical ablation of thyroid nodules, benign nodules, I mean to say benign nodules. So treatment of benign nodules is only a cosmetic or only if there is a compression. Otherwise, there is no indication. Cosmesis and compression. So if there is a compression, better to do surgery. If it is non-compressing nodule, you can go ahead with the chemical or the thermal ablations, ablations in the form of radio frequency or microablation. Surgery is lobectomy. If it is multinodular goiter, you can go ahead with near total thyroidectomy or total thyroidectomy. So these are the options for the benign nodules. Total thyroidectomy, very few cases. Next. This is just a slide representing how a that is the radio frequency ablation nodule can be done. So this ablative, thermal ablative procedures, the nodule should be not to the surface because the skin may get damaged, or not to the close to the vital structures like nerves. So in between, you can easily ablate through these radio frequency ablations. Next. So that is about the benign lesions, management of benign lesions. What about the established or FNAC picked up malignant lesions? FNAC confirmed malignant lesions. So if it is a papillary carcinoma thyroid, it's total thyroidectomy plus or minus lymph node dissection, whether central lymph node or other modified radical neck dissections depending upon the lymph node presence there. So papillary carcinoma thyroid, again I will emphasize, it is a very indolent. Most of the papillary carcinomas are very indolent, not aggressive. So there is one saying that a papillary carcinoma thyroid may be a case for a surgeon when he is rather he takes the examination, and the same patient may be a case for his son also as exam for the examination, or even his grandson also. That's the aphorism. But it means it is so indolent. So lymph node dissection is rarely indicated unless there is lymph node picked up by clinical examination or by the USG, and there is no need of the lymph node dissections. If at all, it is only central lymph node, the level 6 lymph node dissection. If it is anaplastic, most of the times they present lately and they are inoperable. What is the plan? If you, by lucky, if you pick up at early stage there, then you should be aggressive in curing the disease by total thyroidectomy, and there you have to combine with the central lymph node dissections. So anaplastic carcinomas, if it comes late, most of the times it does. So options remaining are external beam radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Surgery, if possible, very rarely. For medullary carcinoma thyroid, estimation serum calcium as a prognostic indicator, then look for MEN syndromes. If it is associated with pheochromocytoma, first for surgery you have to control the hypertension. One should not neglect the pheochromocytoma. So one should know that it is associated with the disease with hypertension. So total thyroidectomy, it has to be combined with the lymph node dissection, at least central lymph node dissection. Here comes the much chunk of the dilemma. Again, I told you indefinite or suspicious malignancy on FNAP. Best way is to, after USGL clinical examination, USGL, if you can still have the dilemma of being it a malignancy, first subject it for hemithyroidectomy. So after hemithyroidectomy, if it is the specimen is given as comes as a malignancy, then go ahead for completion thyroidectomy. In this established specimen proved malignancies also, there are some conditions or criteria where you can still stop at that level also. You need not go for a completion thyroidectomy. What are those things? Next. So indication for completion thyroidectomy after hemithyroidectomy in case of papillary carcinoma is, in papillary carcinoma after hemithyroidectomy, during surgery only, you can subject the patient for the specimen for Frozen section, if it is facilities are available, if frozen section shows it is a PTC, we can go ahead with the total thyroidectomy at the same city. If it is frozen section specimen facilities is not available, then so after the results, you can stratify again. PTC can also be stratified whether it's a high risk PTC or low risk PTC. Depending upon the risk strategy, high risk PTC can be you can go ahead with the total thyroidectomy. Otherwise, hemithyroidectomy, whatever you have done is enough. Frozen sections are very poor in confirming a follicular carcinomas. That's why if it is a follicular, if frozen section shows it is a follicular lesion, don't depend upon that. You stop at the hemithyroidectomy. Next, if the specimen after the hemithyroidectomy shows widely infiltrating follicular carcinoma, minimally infiltrating, no need of further management. Only widely infiltrating, he can subject again for total thyroidectomy. Or if it shows a lymphovascular invasion, better go ahead with the completion thyroidectomy. When you want to do at the same set, usually it comes after 5 to 6 days. So within 2-3 weeks, you have to complete the total thyroidectomy. Don't leave it for a long time also. Next. There is a thing called prophylactic thyroidectomy. So especially in the MTCs, that is medullary thyroid carcinomas. So if they are especially associated with the MEN2B syndromes, prophylactic thyroidectomy is indicated, provided the mutations are there in that family history of red proto-oncogenes, if they are positive. So high risk mutation in MEN2B, you have to do surgery less than 1 year of age. Otherwise, the patient may get the malignancy. Such is the high risk. So the patient may get even at the 1 year of age. So 2B with the red mutations, MTC, the family history of MTC, subject the patient for prophylactic thyroidectomy at the age of 1 or less than 1. If it is MEN2A, we have little the breathing space up to 5 years. Familial medullary carcinoma, again, the isolated MTC in multiple family members, they subjected for the prophylactic thyroidectomy. Those which are associated with the other malignancies like colonic polyposis or the attendant malignancies, if the red proto-oncogenes are positive, subject the patient for the prophylactic thyroidectomy. At what age, it depends upon. You can have by time, but not here. Next. So there are risk stratifying even in papillary carcinoma thyroid. After, as I told you, after hemithyroidectomy or the survival after total thyroidectomy, you can stratify which are the malignancies which go for the short of lifespan, or which are the cases where you need to go for total thyroidectomy. There is a scoring system which accurately predicts if the score is less than 6. It predicts the indolent or the slow growing of the lesion, papillary thyroid carcinoma, where you can stop at the lobectomy itself, or if you have done total thyroidectomy, no further management is necessary if it is the scoring is less than 7. What it takes into account, it is the metastasis, it has given score of 3, age. There is some calculation 3.1 for the less than 40 years and multiplied by 0.08 if it is more than 40 years. Completeness of resection, you have done the hemithyroidectomy, it is the incomplete resection. Otherwise, complete resection, total thyroidectomy. Invasion, if there is a locally invasive, number of points are given 1, otherwise no. Size also, depending upon the size, the 4 centimeters tumor size. So all these things, next. So if the score is less than 6, that's more important. If the summation score is less than 6, you can happily leave the patient, whatever the modality you have done, whether it is total thyroidectomy or hemithyroidectomy, you can safely forget about further management or just follow up. Because the 20-year mortality rate is less than 1% in such cases. Okay, need not worry about the further management. Next. Of course, follow-up, especially in cases of differentiated carcinomas, that is the papillary and follicular variants, one has to follow up with the thyroglobulin estimations. So, if the thyroglobulin estimation after surgery, for thyroglobulin estimation, total thyroidectomy is a necessity. Okay, if you have done partial, the lobectomies, so you can't follow up the cases with the thyroglobulin estimation. Or rare cases where is resistant thyroglobulin antireceptors are there, then this is not possible. But most of the cases, you can, if you have left some small tissue, first ablate that by radioiodine, then do the follow-up with the thyroglobulin estimation. So total thyroidectomy has to be there, whether by ablation or surgery. So for follow-up management with thyroglobulin. So thyroglobulin, if it is increased after surgery, think there is some local residue is there or there is a mets. Okay. So if the local residue is there, ablate it again, and they confirm with iodine 125, ablate the local residual tissue. Members. So this is more important. So what is the level you have to achieve in differentiated carcinomas? So you have to achieve a levels of less than 0.1 milliunits per liter. These levels, you can have little relaxation depending upon whether it is a high risk differentiated carcinoma we are dealing or lower risk differentiated carcinomas we are dealing. If it is high risk cases, the 0.01 milliunits per liter is a must. Achieving that, how to achieve this, such a lower level, we can give by suppressive doses of thyroxine in those cases. Next slide. As I told you, everybody will get a complication of after thyroidectomy if he is doing a total, if he is trying to achieve the total thyroidectomy. Total thyroidectomy is not for everybody. So expertise is needed to achieve a good total thyroidectomy without complications. So complication rates as high as 30% are noted even in Western countries. What are the complications in the form of hemorrhage on the table or post-operative? We have seen patients dying of post-operative hemorrhage in the case of the after total thyroidectomy, even in our institutes also. So one should be very careful about the radicality of the surgeries. The benign lesions unnecessarily subjecting for so many complications is not warranted, not accepted. So that's why I want to highlight on these complications. So nerve injury in the form of recurrent laryngeal nerve or external laryngeal nerve, so maybe a permanent or the temporary. Most important is the hypoparathyroidism. So most of this is permanent hypoparathyroidism, very distressful and difficult to manage. So that's this complication we don't know. We can manage all the other complications, but it is very difficult for a permanent hypoparathyroidism management. Next slide. Disclaimer. Just I have added a video to show that how the total thyroidectomy has to be done. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಗ್ತದಾ? I am using the cautery, but cautery can be safely used in all the steps of thyroid malignancies, but avoid using cautery, especially at the superior poles or when you are dissecting out at the tracheoesophageal junctions. So that is where you will damage the vascularity to the parathyroids. So at that area, at least to avoid cautery. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬೋದು. If you are good at using the cautery, it's well and good. So many people, especially the young surgeons, so better avoid cautery as you go posterior. You have seen I have just ligated the superior pole. Otherwise, so there are people who can just coagulate with the cauteries. That's place where the recurrent laryngeal branch of recurrent laryngeal enters the trachea, and we will have the small branch to the parathyroids also. Superior pole area, where the posterior most part is very tricky situation. The thyroid gland will be very tough there to clear out the thyroid gland for the completion sake. It will be very tough. It is not easy. There won't be any area of tissue there. So you have to literally use the blade to take out from the tracheal surface. So that's the way one should be very careful. This is mainly for our postgraduate students. That's the way. Okay. So it will not be easy. So over experience, we will come to know so where we can limit your dissections, or where diligently you can take out the tissue. So to conclude, spontaneous nodule thyroid 85% are benign, so one can be very safe. Many doesn't need total thyroidectomies. Many benign lesions can be managed without surgery or by minimally invasive methods like aspiration, radiofrequency ablation, ethanol ablation, or laser ablation. Indeterminate FNAB noted in large number of patients. See, imagine nearly 50% of the population have got thyroid nodules either being picked up by the USG. So imagine the quantum of the patients we will have in the society. So even if it is 30% FNAB is indeterminate, that amounts to a lot of cases. So proper stratifying those cases being benign or malignancy is essential to reduce the number of unwanted surgeries. So indeterminate FNAB noted in large number of patients with proper usage of thyroids, basis scoring, immunohistochemistry, genetic marker evaluation, frozen sections will help in greatly reducing the need for total thyroidectomy and its complications. The complications of total thyroidectomy greatly reduced by increased surgical expertise. Thank you. Any questions? I am happy to.
This opportunity, Dr. Subbarao, really nostalgic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
It was a very, I welcome you all for SR Farm. This is one outdoor CME which we wait every year to attend. I thank Satish sir and Dr. Lakshmi Pavana ma'am for organizing an wonderful outdoor CME. There will be some technical glitch every time, even it is common in indoor CMEs. I think we should accept that. But the ambience is wonderful. And every time I give a hats off to the organizers, Satish sir and Lakshmi Pavana ma'am, how much pain they take to organize this thing. I think everybody should appreciate and give an applaud for them. I thank Dr. Somsekhar sir for giving an elaborate lecture on solitary nodule and enlightening us on the topic. And once again, before me summing up, I congratulate everyone on our Republic Day. Congratulations for 76th Republic Day to all. Thank you.
Respected colleagues and friends, first of all, thank you, Dr. Somsekhar sir, for the lecture. It was actually, I think it is need of the moment now, because a lot of things are being like many a times we need recent advances in most of the things, thyroid being one of them. And thank you sir for the lecture. It was really nice. And lot of technical glitches in between during the lecture. We tried a lot, but these things keep happening. And coming to the end, every year from the hospital side, we used to share one of the important milestone or any achievement which we had. So last session we celebrated 50 years anniversary. So this time I want to share one more important achievement. That is, we started free OP consultations on every Tuesday for pregnant women. So since last 15 years, we have treated around 35,000 pregnant women. So every Tuesday we have we are having free OP. So that's really great. 35,000 ANC patients we have seen. A really important achievement for us. And one more important thing we started is in the last eight months. It was we mainly think unaffordability is the important reason for patients not coming to private hospitals and having whatever treatment they need. So we started subsidized packages for LACS and normal delivery for farmer patients and the families of farmer patients. So in the last 8 months, only in these patients have undergone, around 30 patients have undergone under this scheme. So that was like it's being really offered in very low price. So that's really nice. So these two things I wanted to share. And lastly, I thank everyone, friends of us, family members who have come to here. Thank you all. And our hospital staff, they have been organizing in the background everything. Even though few technical glitches are there, so they've been doing their best. And thank you, Manik Rao sir, Sangeeta madam, and all the team of IMA for helping us out. And so from here, I conclude here.